Colorado Springs police just started their update regarding the mass shooting.
This is Lieutenant Castro with the police department speaking. Let's listen in.
7 seconds p.m. last night. The initial officer was dispatched at 11:57 p.m. The first officer arrived in the area at 12 a.m. and the suspect was detained and subsequently taken into custody at 12:02 a.m. Please understand that all of the numbers that we are providing are preliminary. They are changing. We have had additional people drive themselves to the hospital. So everything that we're giving you is the information we have at this moment to the best of our knowledge, but it is subject to change. If you were not at the initial briefing, the numbers will be shared with you again today. With that, I will have Colorado Springs Police Department Chief Adrian Vasquez.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here on this tragic day. I want to first express my condolences to those families who have lost the loved ones during this tragic event and to those that were injured today during this tragic shooting. I want every citizen in our city to know that the men and women of the Colorado Springs Police Department stand with you during this tragedy. We are working tirelessly to ensure that justice for the victims in this senseless and evil shooting is given. Club Q is a safe haven for our LGBTQ citizens. Every citizen has the right to feel safe and secure in our city, to go about our beautiful city without fear of being harmed or treated poorly. I'm so terribly saddened and heartbroken. I also want to thank all of our first responders, our fire department, our police officers, sheriff's office, all of our medical personnel, whether they be transporting through AMR and other ambulance services, and all of our hospitals did a tremendous job during this undertaking. Thank you so much for all that you do every day. We are actively processing the scene at Club Q. Initial evidence and interviews indicate that the suspect entered Club Q and immediately began shooting at people inside as he moved further into the club. While the suspect was inside of the club, at least 2 heroic people inside the club confronted and fought with the suspect and were able to stop the suspect from continuing to kill and harm others. We owe them a great debt of thanks. As the investigation is still in its early stages, we are not going to identify any of the witnesses inside of the club at this time. The FBI is already on scene and assisting with the investigation. We are also working to identify the victims who have died and notify their families. Please be patient with the identification of the victims, as a first priority is to the victims' families. We have numerous detectives and officers interviewing witnesses and victims. We have multiple victim advocates also meeting with the victims who have been injured. These advocates will also be meeting with the families of those victims who have died. The suspect has been identified as Anderson Lee Aldrich, a 22-year-old male. At least 2 firearms were found at the scene. We are still working to identify the firearms and who they belong to, but I can confirm that the suspect used a long rifle during this shooting. Detectives are currently seeking multiple search warrants, so please be patient with the release of information, as this is a large and complex scene and will be time-consuming to process. Detectives are also looking to identify if there were any other individuals who assisted the suspect. The motive of the crime is part of the investigation, and whether this was a hate crime is part of that investigation. Again, my deepest condolences to the victims and to their families. And with that, I'd like to introduce Mayor John Suthers.
Thank you, Chief. Colorado Springs is once again in mourning after the tragic shooting at Club Q last night. Our hearts go out to the victims and their families who are bearing the weight of this horrific tragedy. As indicated, there is much we are still waiting to learn about this tragic incident. We know one or more patrons heroically intervened to subdue the suspect, and we praise those individuals who did so because their actions clearly saved lives. We also thank our first responders from across the Pikes Peak region who quickly responded to help those in need. The first officer arrived on scene within 3 minutes after being dispatched, and the suspect was subdued within 2 minutes after that. Victims were rapidly transported and received emergency attention as quickly as possible. We are a strong community that has shown resilience in the face of hate and violence in the past, and we will do so again. As a community, we will provide for the victims and witnesses of this horrific event, and law enforcement will pursue this case with the zealousness that it deserves. We will continue to share more information with the community as it becomes available. But please be patient. This is a horrible crime, and we have a suspect in custody. We must do this right and ensure justice is served for the victims of this tragedy. The Governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, has been in communication with me. We talked early this morning. Because he is in COVID quarantine, he is not able to be here personally at this press conference, but he sends his heartfelt condolences to the victims of this tragedy. I've also been in communication with Senator Michael Bennet, Senator John Hickenlooper. I'm also pleased that Councilwoman Nancy Hingham has joined us this morning. This is a community tragedy, and our community will respond appropriately. It's my pleasure now to introduce Michael Allen, the District Attorney of the 4th Judicial District. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Michael Allen. I'm the District Attorney for the 4th Judicial District. This is a tragic day for our community, and we stand in solidarity with the victims and their family members as we make sense out of a senseless crime. Every person, regardless of who they are, have the right to be secure from fear and physical harm. And actions taken to strike fear in specific communities will not be tolerated in our community. This is particularly true for communities that have been maligned, harassed, and targeted by persons or groups to intimidate and cause harm to members of those communities. I commend the men and women of the Colorado Springs Police Department, Colorado Springs Fire Department, and AMR for their prompt response to this senseless act of violence, an act that has taken 5 lives and injured at least 18 others. This act does appear to have been carried out by one person, and I can tell you it does not define this community. The one person in custody currently is Anderson Lee Aldrich, 22-year-old male. If additional suspects are identified and arrested, we will share that information with the public at the appropriate time. This will be a coordinated effort with representatives from federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. There's a lot of work to be done to ensure this investigation is thorough and the eventual prosecution effort is both fair and firm. We will work closely with our law enforcement partners and the victims of this crime and their family members to achieve justice in this case. I can promise you that the DA's office will put together a strong team, and we will work tirelessly to achieve justice on their behalf. At this stage, the DA's office is serving in a support role as the investigation unfolds. In the coming days, the case will be transferred officially to our office, and we will work closely with CSPD to determine the appropriate level of charges for all identified suspects. There's obviously a natural tension in cases that receive intense public interest for information, while also recognizing the need for a fair judicial process. Investigative agencies and my office will share only certain allowable information during the investigation and subsequent prosecution effort, while also being diligent in answering the need for information by this community. I want to reassure the community that there is no ongoing threat that we are aware of, and that we will put every effort into holding any perpetrators involved with this horrific act accountable. At this point, I would be glad to introduce Colorado Springs Fire Department Chief Randy Royal.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to echo the fact that this was a sad night and a terrible day for our community. I do want to give a shout out and thanks to the police department for their actions. We have a great working relationship with them, but their actions directly made an impact on saving lives. And part of that was we have direct communications with the CSPD when we're on those scenes. And as soon as they had the suspect in custody, we were able to move our folks in there, our paramedics and firefighters, to start triaging and treating patients. We did not do it alone. An event like this takes the whole community, and we additionally used some regional partners. We had transports from American Medical Response, from CSFD units, from county units.
So what we are listening in on is an update from police, the district attorney, the mayor in Colorado Springs regarding the mass shooting that happened at Club Q overnight. They were talking about how at least 2 people inside the club were the ones that fought the suspect to stop him from continuing to open fire after he had walked in with a gun and opened fire on the people there inside.
Yeah, they said it's 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich that used a long rifle for this shooting. Again, those 2 or more heroic people inside being praised by Chief Vasquez, Mayor Southers, the District Attorney Michael Allen, who we also heard from, Governor Polis as well, has now weighed in on all of this. Of course, we are still working to get more information right now. You heard that this process could take a little bit as they work to get justice for the victims of this.
They believe, according to the DA, that at least 1 person seems to be responsible for this. They are continuing to look for anybody else who is involved, but again, ask for patience with that process. We do have this press conference. It is on our website, and we are going to be also gathering all of that information together to give you a recap as well of what we just learned about the mass shooting that left 5 people dead, another 18 hurt overnight.